What's going on, everybody? We are back. Episode number 187 of the Club and Sub Podcast, inching closer and closer to that 200 episode mark. We might even get there before the end of this year. I'm not sure. It's going to be close. We might. We'll do something special for that. Yeah, coming off the heels of a really shitty card, both in terms of how good it played out entertainment-wise, and in terms of how myself and Legs both did. I think, for me, I think it was my worst card betting in like almost 2 years. It was ugly. It was absolutely ugly out there. But we'll get into that in a second. Guys, if you like the show, drop a like, subscribe. It would help us out a bunch. As always, we're brought to you guys by FightNumbers.com, John Kelly's website. Those guys are doing great work over there. John, Ozzy, Pepe, Evan, and Chad. They have the live odds screen. You can see live odds in real time across each book, foreign and domestic. They also have bets from those guys, really, really sharp cappers over there. And they got John Kelly's DFS prediction. So if you want 30% off your first month subscription to FightNumbers.com, use the promo code CLUB. And with that, I will jump into my results from last week. It was a fucking bloodbath. Minus 10.32 units. I had a parlay with Mick Parkin and Callum Loughran for 1.5 units. Callum Loughran was what I thought he was when he came into the UFC, as it turned out. Just didn't fight well, didn't wrestle well, got owned. Parkin obviously dominated, but it doesn't matter. Bet Preston Parsons to win 2 units at minus 138. Yeah, not much to say there. Oban did a better job in the defensive grappling than I expected. I won the fight. I had Mikhaev to win 2 units over Kopp. That was my only winner. I don't even know how great a bet that was. I will say, the one thing, it was maybe the one good read I had of the entire night. I did say on here that if you look at their distance striking numbers, Mikhaev had much better distance striking numbers than Manel Kopp did. Don't be surprised if the volume was close in that regard. And it was. Mikhaev actually outlanded him at distance for the fight. But, yeah, it continued downhill from there. Had Bobby Green to win 2 units, minus 120. I'm not going to throw conspiracy theories around. All I'll say is the line move combined with Bobby Green shooting a takedown in a fight that he was otherwise comfortably outpacing Patty in was odd to say the least. Lost by submission. Good times. That sucked. It was followed up next with Curtis Blades. I don't have any regrets about this, honestly. It's probably this and the Bobby bet. I really just don't regret those plays at all. They lost, but, we knew if Blades was going to lose, it was probably going to be early by KO.
Right.
He got clipped. I don't even know how hurt he was, but the optics were obviously horrible, leading the stop, so I don't really have any issue with the stoppage. And then Leon Edwards had him to win 1.5 units against Bilal Muhammad. Super square. I really wish we saw that version of Leon Edwards when I max bet Kamaru Usman against him in their third fight, at minus 200. I saw some people being like, Bilal's wrestling is different from Kamaru Usman. It's like, it's different in that it's not nearly as good. Like, one of these guys is like an Olympic alternate, and the champion who defended his title 7 times. Yeah, it was odd. I felt like Leon cocked a little bit after he realized Bilal could get takedowns. I also think it's pretty clear Bilal's on all kinds of supplements. He just seemed like a physically different fighter. But with that said, I'm happy for Bilal Muhammad. Honestly, good fighter. Obviously makes the most of the skills he has. And Leon just, honestly, you put out a performance like that where you lose on those margins, and all he had to really do was a little bit more, show a little more effort to get out of some of those positions, and he could have won the fight. He has no one to blame but himself. Good on Bilal. Horrible night for me, though. Hoping we get back to it this week. How'd you do, Legs?
Horrible night for me as well. Minus 5.85 units. So I had a parlay with Loughran and Edwards, both super square losers as well, as you touched on as well. I had Curtis Blades, had a unit on him, had a unit on Bobby Green as well, had a unit on Preston Parsons, and then the only good read I had of the fight of the entire card was I had Mick Parkin minus 3.5 spread at minus 125. And
that was very good.
And outside of that, though, just awful reads.
Yeah, absolute blood in the streets here. But
yes,
I didn't undo all the gains from the last 2 weeks, but I undid a lot. But we're getting back on the horse. Hopefully start with UFC Abu Dhabi. Although, ironically, I don't really think it's that great a card from betting. I only have one bet so far. I will maybe have one more money line, and then there's a couple totals I'm intrigued by I'll talk about. But yeah, what do you think of it? It's not... Honestly, it's not even that great a card from an entertainment perspective outside of like the last 3 fights.
No, that's a thing too. Like I'm gonna be at the beach for I'm gonna be going Friday until all the way until next week. So not too bummed that it's an afternoon card and gonna be missing some of these spots, but again, a lot of you touched on, a lot of the better fights are toward the later half of the card. So
yeah. What beach are you going to?
So I am going to Oak Island, North Carolina.
Okay. Oh wow, you're going down there. Well, I mean, you're a Jersey guy now, so I wasn't sure if you were doing the Jersey Shore or you're going.
No. All the family's heading down there, so it'll be a good time.
Nice. That'll be fun. All right. Yeah. Well, let's jump into it. First fight of the night, we have got Cedric Dumas taking on Denis Tulan. Current price, Dumas minus 235. Come back on Tulan plus 200. What do you think here, Lex?
This is one of the bets I have on the card out of my 2 bets. And looking at Tapology, first of all, I got to say, me and Dennis got a little look-alike with the haircut. Can't lie. But what I do have a bet on Dennis here, plus 185. I mean, to me, just Cedricus as a huge favorite implies that he has a massive grappling path in this fight. And to me, I just don't think his wrestling grappling is that good. And to me, on the feet, I think 2 guys throw hard. I think it's pretty volatile on the feet. So, yeah, give me plus 185.
Yeah, I don't have a strong feeling here. To me, I think the line's probably fine. I hate Dumas, and I do tend to agree with you that Tululan's got some decent edges, or could have some edges early in this fight, especially in the boxing. But I do think Dumas is a bit more explosive. I think he does slightly better attritional work, and obviously he's a fair bit younger and dimensionally a bit longer. But I mean, Dumas is terrible, so if Tulan beats him, I won't be shocked. I just kind of happy to stay away from this. I don't have the strongest read on it, and Tulan at his age and obviously with his gas tank and record, I'm just kind of happy to pass on. Moving on, though, Jai Herbert taking on Rolando Bedoya. Current price, Herbert minus 140. Come back on Bedoya plus 120. I was initially looking at Bedoya a bit here just because I feel Jai has got some inherent weaknesses in his game that make him hard to be a favorite against decent fighters. Namely, he's got really poor takedown defense. He's really, really fragile. And he doesn't really push a high pace. He's actually been outlanded a distance for his career in the UFC. So, he's not a guy that I really, really like ever betting on. And Bedoya, he impressed me a bit in the chaos fight. Hung in there, took the shots, gave him back. And then did less good work against Kenan Song. But I think he's got some things he could potentially capitalize on here. Good leg kicks. Obviously should have a hardware edge, which maybe could have some grappling success. But ultimately, I decided to pass because even though I don't like Jai's game and I like Bedoya's work rate, I like his leg kicks, I like that he potentially could grapple, I feel the athleticism difference going from 170 to 155 is big. And I say as in guys at 155 just generally are much better athletes than the guys at 170. They're technically a bit better. They're faster. And Jai is, Jai's very long. He's very, very fast. If he gets a distance kickboxing match, I don't love his volume, but he is very, very sharp. And at the end of the day, he's been in the UFC a lot longer, and he's been in there with some dogs. So
yeah,
I do think he's a bit better than Bedoya. I think I can see why people like Bedoya. I just have concerns that he's going to step down here and just get fucked on by, a real lightweight. What do you think?
No, I kind of have a similar read to you as well. I get the public sentiment of why people are playing Bedoya this week, but at the same time, like you had mentioned with Herbert fighting much better guys, I think he's just a much better technical striker. I think, like you had mentioned, the jump down from 70 to 55. I mean, Bedoya in general is a very slow, plotty guy. He's very hittable in his nature. So I think Herbert can have solid success in the striking. So to me, I think 55, 60% Jai is perfectly fine.
Yeah, but I'm looking at Herbert's losses in the UFC. It's Ziam in a competitive fight,
Fernando in a competitive fight.
Yeah, Topuria, Moicano. Those are his losses. He should have gotten the Klein win. There was a point taken away in that fight, and that's aged really well. He beat Kyle Nelson, which is aged pretty well as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't really, I don't know. I don't really want to be involved with Bedoya here. moving on. This is my only bet I've made so far.
Okay.
We got Victoria Dudakova. She's currently minus 170. Taking on Sam Hughes. Come back on Hughes, plus 145. I played Hughes for 2 units at plus 160. I think she should be in like the pick 'em to plus 125 range here, personally. I really don't think Victoria Dudakova is very good. I don't think Sam Hughes is very good, but she's not the favorite in this fight. Sam,
No.
What I'm getting with Sam Hughes, I know what I'm getting every fight. She's a good defensive grappler. She's got a good get-up game, great cardio, very, very tough. Will come forward and push a pace. She is not a good athlete. She tends to get fucked on by better athletes, but, she'll work to the best of her ability in there. Dudakova, I mean, she had a bit of hype on her, but the truth is she won her contender series fights because her opponent gassed out. Obviously, Estela Nunes busted her elbow 20 seconds into her first fight in the UFC. But, Jinyu Fry, that fight was, spookily close. Mr. Meldama says, good defensive grappler. She's got a very good get-up game. She can be taken down a bunch, but Hughes is extremely, extremely difficult to hold down. She couldn't take Fry down. And, Jinyu Fry is someone who was grappled pretty bad towards the back end of the Kay Hansen fight. Obviously, Kay Hansen no longer in the UFC. She actually got taken down by Fry and held down easily for a full round.
The whole round.
Really.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just it wasn't as if she just got held down. She just wasn't doing anything correctly to try to get off her back. It was really, really ugly. And then even on the feet, she won the fight on volume, more or less. But it wasn't like she was stringing together very, very long combinations. She kind of just won by default because Fry doesn't throw strikes. And Fry was too tired in round 3 to kind of win that fight. And so I look at Hughes. It's is it possible Dudakova is too much of an athlete for her? Yeah. I mean, can Dudakova take her down? Yeah. Is she going to hold her down? I don't know, man. Piera Rodriguez took her down 4 times and only got a minute of control in that entire fight. So I think Piera Rodriguez is a much, much better fighter than Dudakova is. Frankly, for me, that's kind of the closest corollary of this fight because I think Rodriguez is actually a pretty good fighter, a better striker than Dudakova, better wrestler, or similar wrestler, but better athlete in general. And Hughes pushed her pretty much to the brink in that fight. And so I look at this and I'm well, Dudakova's upside here is she gets 3-4 takedowns, probably doesn't control too much, maybe outworks her a bit, probably wins a close-ish decision. And on the Hughes side, I'm her upside's probably a closest decision, but if Hughes gets on top of Dudakova, that might just be around, So it's I think Hughes has much more scope for winning around from top position than Dudakova does in what I think is otherwise going to be a close fight. I guess I give Dudakova's athleticism. I give her some benefits there from athleticism and youth. But, yeah, I think it's a competitive fight. I like Hughes here. What do you think?
I guess we're seeing the fight kind of similarly, but I just feel like Dudakova can have some more grappling success early in the fight. And so, I mean, at the number you got at, I guess I'd be fine with a small shot on Hughes. But where it's at now, I mean, I more or less think it's fine.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think it's probably a minus EV decision to add on to that, but
I'm not adding.
No. I'm saying to add on to that myself. I'm saying I think the fight is probably playing out in a minus EV decision. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a very, very. I think it'll be a very competitive fight. So we'll see who wins. I don't know, but
yep.
I like Sam Page. Moving on, we got Guram Kutateladze. He's taking on newcomer from Cage Warriors, I believe. Yeah, Cage Warriors champion, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. We got Jordan Vucenic. Current line, Guram minus 205. Come back on Vucenic, plus 175. What are your thoughts here, Lags?
To me, I mean, not to copy and mirror matches, but I kind of feel like this is similar to the Herbert fight in some ways, where I feel like Guram has fought the much better guys. I think from a technical perspective as well, I think he's a much better striker. Vucenic moving up a weight class, relatively short notice. Again, only fought 2 weeks ago. I just think there's a lot of red flags coming in on his UFC debut. I feel like Guram should be fine-ish, again, 60-ish%. I think it's fine. I guess you could say the line's a bit wide, but I think Guram should largely be okay. I would never lay the price. I'll put it that
it's funny. I was actually thinking of betting Vucenic originally because, I remember, I've seen him fight a few times. I like watching the Cage Warriors cards.
I never have until researching this week.
Yeah, and so like I thought, I would probably play him, but man, I really don't think Venic is great. I mean, he's not terrible.
He's
like,
all
he's
right.
he's like an okay prospect, but Cage Warriors is like quite bad, in terms of the talent level over there.
Yeah, not
I
to
saw
shit on him too
someone.
hard, but yeah.
Yeah, one of my buddies this week was like, well, I mean, he competed with Paul Hughes and someone else in Cage Warriors. I was like, I don't care. It's like Guram beat Gamrot and had a 50-55 with Demirez Magulov. Like, they're not the same. The thing is, I don't think Venic is very likely to have a ton of grappling success, which means he kind of just needs, like, he could get a takedown or two, but I'd be surprised if he holds Guram down, which means he just needs to pay strike with Guram. And I just think Guram's a lot better at that game than him, I think even Guram's cardio is kind of being a bit underrated because he almost killed Brener 3 separate times in that fight and gassed out doing it. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to lay minus 205, but I do think Guram he should be able to keep this upright if he wants it there. And I think he's the far better striker. He's a far more proven fighter. And obviously for Venic, this is very, very short notice. So, yeah, I think Guram is going to handle business here. Big ask for Venic on less than 2 weeks' notice. Moving on. Another interesting one here. Shamil Gaziev taking on Dante Mays. Shamil Gaziev last seen quitting and refusing to come out for the 5th round against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I did tell you Jairzinho was going to win that fight.
You did.
I don't have as much conviction in the Dante Mays side of things here. The current price
play there, John?
No, it is not a
skin.
system play.
It's not a skin system play.
No. The robot is not triggering a signal for this fight. Gaziev minus 220. Comeback on Mays plus 185. I mean, I have the same concerns I had with Gaziev going into that fight and going into the Bedoya fight. Mark is saying, why did I pronounce Dante Mays that way? I don't know. Isn't that what you're supposed to pronounce? I have no fucking idea.
Dante Mays, I think.
Dante Mays.
There are some other ones I think you pronounce a little weird too. I won't call you out on it.
Fuck off.
Okay. Yeah, no, I won't. You're good, John. You're good.
But I have the same concerns with Gaziev I did pre Rozenstruik fight and before we bet him against Bedoya. I don't think this guy's got good cardio. I think if you force him to work hard past 6 or 7 minutes, he kind of just falls off a cliff. I mean, you saw in the Jairzinho fight, his output, he kept trying to pressure him, but his output just disappeared on the back end of that fight. And even in the early portions of that fight, he got him down in round 1, and then in round 2, he just kind of got stuck. And I could kind of see that happening here if Mays can make him work hard enough for that to happen. I'm just skeptical that Mays is capable of doing that. The Hamdi fight still sticks with me to this day. I think Gaziev can get takedowns early in this fight. I know you're going to disagree with me on this. One thing I am kind of interested in potentially is the over. Yeah, it's plus 130 right now.
John, I'm not going to bet the under. I will talk about it when we get to it, but I will shot bet you on the total.
All right, that's fine. You have to do 1.3 shots if you lose.
Okay.
Yeah. Did we have a shot bet last week, actually?
We did not.
Oh, yeah.
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, I just feel like Mays isn't that easy to finish on the mat. Like, since his 3rd fight in his career, the only 2 guys to finish him in the UFC are got him with a heel hook, which was pretty ugly. And Nascimento subbed him with a rear naked choke. But I just feel like Gaziev, when he gets on top, is kind of happy to chill unless you give up spots. And Mays is kind of explosive. I don't think Mays is going to give his back. I mean, he might give his back up, but it's not like he's fighting Nascimento who's going to jump like hooks or like Jalton Almeida and do that. I feel he's just going to be able to like either get up or get trapped. But I really don't think Gaziev's going to knock him out on the feet. And if he doesn't, I think this goes long. I also, if Mays can actually make him work and like work up a few times here, looking to bet Mays live at like the 5 to 7.5 minute mark, I think could make a lot of sense. I just can't get in early here because Gaziev he really should be better everywhere. What do you think, Lags?
So I actually think Gaziev can finish him standing. And then in terms of finishing him on the mat, I do think, again, he can land takedowns and finish him with ground and pound. To me, in terms of like the fight standing, I think this is fairly similar to the Sakai fight, where I think Sakai landed harder shots on the feet, could land or could have success in the clinch as well. I think Gaziev can do the same.
Fair enough. I'll keep it with you here. What a fight this is.
This is a weird one.
Muhammad Yaya, who's only going to get fights in like the Middle East. Let's be honest. He's only going to get fights in the Middle East. Current price, Cowboy Fernandez minus 400. The comeback on Yaya is plus 300. What do you think, Alex?
Well, for starters, did you see like Fernandez was like minus 170 for like a small time?
Yeah. Fernandez sucks though, man.
He does, and he's explosive, and I think he probably finishes Yaya. But like to me, Yaya, like this might be his last fight in the organization. Like there's no reason why this guy should have been signed. On paper, like he could land takedowns here in theory. Yeah. Like Fernandez doesn't have a great defensive grappling game, but I think on the feet he's really outclassed, both from athleticism perspective and a striking perspective. I think Fernandez should pretty much handle business, no issue.
Yeah. I kind of expect Fernandez to finish early in this fight.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. He's just a lot more athletic and a lot more explosive. But I do feel like Cowboy Fernandez being minus 400 just is – it's a little on the crazy side, man. Like the guy's not a good grappler. It's
just like Chiesa being minus 7-1, which we'll get to that.
Is that crazy, though?
They're both I mean, Chiesa should be a big favorite. Don't get me wrong, I guess. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, like Fernandez is bad cardio. He's a bad grappler. He's not super high output. He is fairly explosive and a decent finisher, and Yaya has like negative athleticism. So,
yeah,
like Muhammad Yaya has the athleticism of Hani Yaya without the jiu-jitsu. You know, that's that's him.
Or the rest.
But yeah, but. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, look, yeah, like Evan just put in the chat, he got minus 180. That's a great price. Like you mentioned, Lex. Like those are like I think Fernandez minus 250 to 300 is fine. I do think inherently someone like Fernandez who only has 5 to 8 minutes of strong gas in him, being this kind of a favorite is like very, very sketchy. But yeah, I mean, look. I don't think Cowboy Fernandez should be minus 400 in a UFC fight, but I'm not betting Muhammad Yaya. This is not the guy that I want to take a shot. You know what? I'm okay with doubling down and taking a shot on Curtis Blades at plus 300 because I know Curtis Blades is a good fighter. Muhammad Yaya, regardless of the result, is not that and will not be in the organization very long. So, yeah, pass for me. Moving on, we got Atomic Alonzo Menifield taking on Azamat Murzakanov. Current price, Murzakanov minus 192. Comeback on Menifield plus 167. I liked some of the early Menifield prices, and I didn't play it. And I'm not going to play this price now. I feel like, I mean, Murzakonov's a better fighter, right? He's way faster. He hits harder. He's a bit more technical. I just think Menifield's kind of a hard guy to cover big numbers against unless you can well, even grappling him. We've seen guys struggle to grapple him who have tried to grapple him.
Yeah.
And
you can still explode him early, though. He's very hittable, and I think he's pretty.
Yeah, but he hasn't been finished a bunch. He's only been finished twice, I think, Menifield, right?
He's been hurt.
OSP knocked him out, and he got knocked out by Olberg in his last fight. But either way, you know, Menifield, he packs some power. He's a solid grappler. He does a decent job of sucking people into like low volume affairs, like he did with Jacoby in his last fight. Plus, he's got 2 inches of height and like 5 inches of reach on Murzakanov in this fight. So I had some interest there, and I did think, and I do think, Menifield, if he goes to it, could potentially have some wrestling upside in this fight. But I don't know. At plus 200, I was willing to find that out because I think at plus 200 with Azamat only having 7 or 8 minutes of like really strong horsepower in him, combined with him having grappling deficiencies, combined with him being old and short, it's like I'm pretty happy to guess Alonzo Menifield wins this fight more than 1 in 3. Where it is now, like 65%, maybe it's a tad wide, but I do think there's a lot more KO equity on the Murzakanov side. And I do think while they're fresh, the difference in speed is going to be very, very, very pronounced. I think I'd rather just sit back and try to play Menifield live passed around than try to fuck around with him at plus 160 against Murzakanov. I do think, though, this could be a very competitive fight. What are your thoughts?
I parlayed Murzakanov at minus 210.
Okay.
I personally think that speed difference is going to be pretty massive on the feet, and I think he probably does knock him out. I don't think Alonso has a good chin. I don't think he has good durability. I don't think he's got good striking. This guy's got big power. He's a good athlete, and I think he's got the worst cardio in the matchup.
All right, fair enough. So Wags is advocating for Asmat Murzakanov.
I am. Current price, yep. I'd advocate it for it. Shot bet.
Next. I shot bet 2-1.
2-1. 2-1. Alonso wins 2-1.
Yeah, I'll take a 2-1 shot bet. Done. Next up, good fight here. Joel Alvarez fighting for the first time in a minute. I think since Britain last year, I want to say. He's taking on Elvis Brener. Current price, Alvarez minus 190. Comeback on Brener plus 165. What do you think, Lex?
So you are correct in that. It was a year ago. This is a super interesting fight to me, but at the same time, like I feel like Brenner's going to be in a lot of shit early in the fight. Like Alvarez is huge, hits very hard, just an absolute physical specimen. But on the flip side, I think if this fight can extend, I think Brener could land takedowns, could potentially stay safe on top. But I don't know. I think Brenner's too hittable. I feel like people are giving him a lot of credit this week, and I just feel like Alvarez is a tough matchup to both hold down and have success on the feet as well without getting in danger yourself.
Yeah, I feel you. Also, as an aside to anybody who might just be listening, Pepe just chimed in. Hello, folks. I'm on day 3 of a semen retention. If he can hold out till Saturday, I would expect a big card from Pepe. Pepe without masturbating could be next level. It could be the best ever do it. Yeah, he is locked in. I might have to lock in. Got to turn it around after last week. Yeah, I have like weird feelings about the fight because pre-tape I thought I'd like Brener a lot. Post-tape I have kind of similar thoughts to you. I guess my biggest issue with Brener is I don't think he's actually good at anything. He's not.
He's got good pace and volume. He'll push through. Yeah. He's got good heart.
He does, but he's very easy to hit. Like very, very easy to hit. Actually, I think maybe the best part of Brener is his defensive grappling, which I was actually somewhat impressed with how strong he was grappling with Orolbai in his last fight. Obviously, he lost that fight semi-convincingly, but he did turn him a couple times and caused him some issues throughout that fight, which surprised me. In the context of this fight, I mean, I just think Alvarez is a lot sharper, obviously a lot bigger on the feet. I do think there is some equity for Brener getting takedowns here. My issue is I have no idea what Brenner's positional control is really like because he hasn't really had to deal with someone on bottom yet that is actually as dangerous as Alvarez is. So, like, I don't know. Is he gonna? I guess theoretically, there's upside that Brener could go out there and just wipe him on the mat, right? But Alvarez does throw a lot of shit at you off his back, and so he's going to be dealing with something he really hasn't seen down there before, which makes me nervous. And just in general, I think Alvarez is the much more likely of the two fighters to finish this fight, which immediately makes me lean towards the Alvarez side. But yeah, I mean, if he can keep the pace high and survive, I could see him having big success on the back end of this fight. I am just very skeptical he can do that. And I think even if he can, you could be looking at a 2-0 hold that he's trying to climb out of or finish. And let's be honest, like, yeah, he knocked out Guram, but like he caught him behind the ear at the end of a brawl and in a fight that he was getting shit kicked in. Like it's, so I don't know. I'm good passing this. I like Brener though. It would be fun if he ends up being like pretty good. I'm very skeptical of his skill set. Like I feel like his skill set is designed for like Homer Simpsoning,
the Billy Q.
Yeah, pretty much. And it works great against guys like Zubin Takugov, who doesn't do shit, who doesn't throw strikes. Yep. And against guys, well, I guess he just kind of memed what's his face in his last fight, not 2 fights ago. Guy he knocked out. Yeah. The Marcus just said it. He'll throw shit at you like a monkey in a safari. That's what he does. He just kind of puts stuff out there.
He's like the guy who fought Castaneda. I can't remember his name.
Marcos?
He's another same shoot the box. Another shoot the box.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Daniel Santos?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
It's like
Santos is
wild
better than
shit.
Brener, though, by like a fair amount,
Yeah.
So,
But again, super hittable on the feet, very easy to counter. But again, throws shit monkey out of safari.
moving on, though, interesting
Yes,
fight
sir.
here. One I'm going to probably just avoid taking a swing on. It's Lupita Godinez, Mackenzie Dern. Honestly, I lean the Godinez side in this fight.
Okay.
I feel the market is looking at Lupita's last fight with, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Verna. Yeah, and saying, okay, now she's fighting a better black belt than Mackenzie Dern, therefore she should be an underdog. When I think the reality is, and honestly, if you compare Verna's fight with Amanda Lemos with Dern's and Amanda Lemos, you should understand that like Verna, in a lot of respects, is a much more challenging fight than Dern because she can actually get the fight to the mat. So I don't buy that like Dern will be able to easily duplicate what Verna did. My bigger concern in the fight is just I don't think Lupi is nearly assertive enough, for this kind of a fight. She does have good, but she has much better striking than Dern. She's a much better boxer. I think she can mostly keep the fight standing, but I don't think she's got the kind of power. She doesn't have the kind of power that Lemos, you saw Lemos was like cracking Dern every time she came into range and actually started to discourage her a bit. I don't really think Lupi can discourage Dern from going forward, which concerns me because when Dern feels like she can go forward with impunity, she will get very, very aggressive. And obviously, she's a total mess on the feet, but she does hit reasonably hard and she is kind of a hoss. I don't know if she can hoss Lupi to the ground, but something else that concerns me is I feel like even though Lupi's got great hips for WMMA, I think she makes a lot of decisions or counter grapples where she shouldn't. Like if I'm Lupi here, if I'm her coaches, I'm like, I want you just jabbing. Anytime she shoots, whizzer, and then get off the side of the cage. But like she was trying to counter grapple Verna, and that's why she ended up in some of those really bad positions in a fight she was otherwise winning. I think you could have made an argument she won it anyway, to be frank. But I just don't think you want to do that with Dern. And I think her doing that with Dern could get her into big, big trouble. And so I don't really see any finishing equity for Lupi, and I don't think this is a fight where she has much top time equity. And so like a bet on Lupi is you're betting on her to fight to a strict game plan for 15 minutes. And even fighting to that strict game plan, trust the judges to understand that the jabs you're hitting are a lot more impactful than the ape shit that Dern is throwing at you, I'm okay passing it. I think Dern's got some scope here just on optics, and obviously she's much more likely of the two women to finish. So pass for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you said it there, just really the funniest part to me. I mean, trusting Lupi to have a smart game plan for 15 minutes. I mean, we've seen it time and time again, really. Now, what I will say to close out my parlay with Mirzakhanov, and I call it square, I think it's a decent line personally. The over 2.5, I played at minus 220 in this fight. Ooh. I think the only finishing upside is from Dern subbing her, and I agree with that. I don't think that's very live at all. Now, in terms of the fight, I agree with you saying Lupi is the better striker than Dern. I feel like in general, though, Dern can make it a close fight on the feet, and like I mentioned with Lupi's IQ,
the Torres fight,
right? And in terms of the grappling, I think it could be close. I think Dern could have her moments. So like, I lean Dern personally. If I had
and honestly, like judges don't really like Lupi. Honestly, like she lost. I thought she beat Verna, went to a decision, and I thought it again on rewatch, but lost that decision unanimously. She went to a split with Ricci, which I didn't think should have been split, but the judges did.
No.
Obviously, she lost a split to Jessica Penne, which she probably should have won that fight as well. She went to a split with Cynthia Calvillo. She just doesn't, the judges just don't like her game very much. It's pretty apparent, So kind of happy to avoid it. Moving on, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chiesa. Current price, Michael Chiesa is minus 650. The comeback on Ferguson, plus 475. What do you think, Glags?
I mean, we alluded to it a little bit earlier. I mean, I think Chiesa should be a massive favorite. I think the takedown should be relatively easy. I mean, Tony has looked washer than washed, really. But at least on the feet, I think Tony could have some moments, maybe. Like, I think he's a better striker than Chiesa. But the question is, how long is the fight going to stay on the feet? So, should be easy. Chiesa. Go ahead.
I honestly almost bet Chiesa minus 400 last week.
No,
I decided not to.
didn't.
I did. Dude.
Really?
Ask Sean.
Jeez.
I texted him like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I think I'm going to lay the price on Chiesa here. I didn't, just because Chiesa has made a career out of doing something dumb and getting himself stuck in a front choke by guys who should not be subbing him, like Kevin Holland and Vicente Luque. And I guess I could see that happening here. What I don't really see happening here is Tony Ferguson having many moments on the feet. Like, sure, if they stand for 15, could he? Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually kind of think Chiesa kind of can do fine on the feet with Ferguson, to be honest, though. Like, probably can hurt him at this point in his career. Like, Ferguson's striking is just abysmal
janky
at this point. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, janky worked great for him when he was still an elite athlete with elite durability, you know? Now he is no longer a very good athlete, nor does he have very good durability. So it's like, guy who is hittable and relies on volume while standing in a range where you can get punched in the face really hard isn't really ideal. Obviously, he's lost 7 fights in a row. He should not be getting another fight. I think it's like borderline elder abuse that they're giving it to
weird.
It is weird, man. Like, what are we doing? Like, at least they're giving him a grappler and not someone who's gonna like punch him in the face like 200 times over the course of the fight. But
right, or even some like upcoming like prospect.
Yeah. I don't want to see him against an upcoming prospect. No. And the thing is, I don't even think there's a safe place to put Ferguson at this point, unless you really want to just go give him like the Gennaro Valdez's of the world. Like, is that what we're gonna do with him? People that are on the verge getting cut from the UFC, like that's. I think it's stupid he's still fighting. But yeah, I don't think he can keep this upright. I think Chiesa is Michael Chiesa, so he could find a way to get himself guard subbed, I suppose. But he really should just smash Ferguson. Like, honestly, I do not think Ferguson can keep it on the feet. I do not think he can get off his back. I think the most likely scenario is Chiesa is going to sub him, to be honest. I just think Ferguson is, once upon a time, the guy was very hard to sub. We've seen multiple times recently. That's not the case anymore. I think Chiesa, and I mean, dude, he's coming up to 170 again. Chiesa is like, I know Chiesa used to fight at 55, but Chiesa is like a big 170, man. Like, that guy should have never been fighting at 55. He's going to ragdoll him. Look, I was about to say it would be nice to see Tony win a fight, except that would mean that he's going to fight again. Like, I just want him to get like gently guillotined here or rear naked choked. And so we
guillotined.
Yeah. Just gently choked unconscious so that he knows it's over, or that Dana knows it's over. But yeah, I literally have zero temptation by Tony Ferguson.
John, hey, he loses here against Chiesa. Here's the next fight for Tony. You ready for it?
Hit me with it.
Darius Flowers.
I mean, if he's going to be fighting, that's what they should be doing. Like, at this point, I don't even know. We know a fair amount of casual fans, but I don't even know casual fans are excited to watch Tony Ferguson fight anymore. Like, it's been a while.
They know it's going to be a beating.
No, this is like the ugliest part of an MMA career. It's like, do you remember BJ's like last 8 fights?
Well, I was going to say, it's like all the casuals right now, like with Conor. Like, Conor's losing, might not even be coming back, Like, people are just.
But at least Conor lost to Dustin Poirier, Like, it's.
Yeah.
Like, we've reached a point. Do you remember, like, BJ fought, like, Ryan Hall? And people are like, oh, he could win this fight, he's got BJJ. It's like, no, the guy is not an MMA fighter anymore. That's Tony. He is not an MMA fighter anymore. It's over. Yeah. The dream's over. So,
it's never been
hopefully this is the end of it. Moving on, Marlon Chito Vera taking on Davison Figueiredo. This is probably the coolest fight on the whole card, if we're being honest. Current price, Figueiredo, minus 145. Come back on Vera, plus 125. What do you think, Lags?
Honestly, with the line coming in, I'm tempted to bet Figgy. I'm leaning more so on the Figgy side. I mean, both of these guys have been like, I shouldn't say my arch nemesis because I haven't really tried to bet on them a ton. I've actually cashed more often than not with both Corey and Moreno on both of them. But these guys aren't great minute winners. I mean, these guys rely on big moments. Cheeto's a historically slow starter. I think Figgy can get off to that fast start. I think he can land takedowns here. I don't think he's going to have a ton of success holding Marlon down, but I think if either of the two is going to have grappling success, it would be Figgy. And yeah, on the feet, I think personally, I like the power more of Figgy than Vera. I do think Figgy is less durable than Vera, but I don't know. I like the striking of Figgy more personally.
Honestly, At the line still been like plus 155 out of bet Vera. I don't
Yeah.
really want to bet him at the current price just because I have some concerns about Figgy holding him down. But what I will say is that's not really Fig's game. You know, that's obvious.
No, but
everybody's
it's not. But he had a ton of success against Font, which
I mean, Corey Sandhagen looked like Khabib against Font.
I know he's not he's not a wrestler that we expect him to just go out there, but like he's a good grappler.
He's solid, but I mean, let's be. What I'm saying is like
that was a mauling. I know.
Yeah, and like the last fight with Garbrandt, I know he dominated on the map, but I mean that was embarrassing. Watching how like clueless Cody was in jiu-jitsu down there, he didn't even fight the right hand when before the choke went in. Like it wasn't even tight, and he just went to grab the arm that was choking him, and I was like, what is happening here? Yeah. So like, I do think though, you know, you always have to be worried about that with Cheeto, that he can get taken down and held down. But what I will say is, Cheeto throws a lot of shit off his back. You know, it's not someone who's going to get taken down and he's just going to lay there and just let you do whatever for free. If you want to punish Cheeto on top, you've got to be passing, you've got to be stacking him, you've got to be throwing ground and pound. Figgy doesn't really do that from top position. I think he's going to have to work very, very hard to hold Cheeto down for like minutes at a time, likely taking elbows and submission attempts the whole time. And so if he pursues that route, I can very easily imagine Cheeto or Figgy gassing out on the back end of this fight. I still don't think his cardio is any good at all, to be honest. But the concern is there. What I will say is, what I do like here, I like the under 2.5. I mean, plus 250. Dude, Davison hasn't been like durable in a long time, man. This was basically the pricing for Munoz Cheeto, and obviously Cheeto is stupid durable, but Pedro Munoz, one of the most durable fighters ever. Yeah. I mean, Figgy, he's been finished multiple times in recent years. He's been hurt in a bunch of other fights. He looked fucking slow to me against Cody, to be honest. Like he was getting clipped a lot, and like Cheeto is one of the most high octane strikers, the most dynamic strikers in the UFC. Like I have my issues with Cheeto and how he'll let guys get way too far out in front of him. But Cheeto is probably as good as anyone in the UFC at landing critical hits, especially in the lower weight classes. And he's taken out a guy in Figgy who's not that durable, who's got terrible gas. You know, I don't see why. And if you go back, you know, I know some guys get out in front of Cheeto. Last time he fought someone kind of in the Figgy mold was Munoz, and he actually threw a fuckload of volume in that fight. I think he landed 140 significant strikes in 3 rounds there. If he comes out there like that, I'm not going to be surprised at all if he finishes. Now, you might say, why not just play Cheeto ITD? I mean, the Cheeto ITD is plus 300, and the under is plus 250. Like, I'd rather just kind of risk the last 2.5 minutes of the fight and take at least Figgy's little bit of finishing equity here. But I feel like this to go the distance should be minus 185 to minus 200. Like, I do not think it should be like minus 300. That seems really, really silly to me, in my opinion. And I lean Cheeto. I do lean Cheeto. I have enough concerns at the current price about him getting top time that I'm not going to bet his money line. But I do think if you put a gun to my head, he'd be the side that I'd take. So,
all right.
Moving on, we got Shara Magomedov taking on Lord Michal Oleksiejczuk. I'm sure everybody's seen the post this week from Michal on YouTube replying that he is done with sports if he loses this fight, and he probably will. Very concerning. Very concerning. I will probably bet him, though. Haven't decided for sure, but I'm leaning in that direction. Shara is not good, man. Like, he's a good kicker. He's a very good kicker, but he's like a really shitty version of Chris Gutierrez, you know? It's like he's Chris Gutierrez.
I think he's a little more lethal than Gutierrez. Like, Gutierrez isn't getting finishes, really, at all, in my opinion.
Well, who has Shara finished? Antonio Trocoli after he gassed out? Like, Bruno Silva is a total corpse at this point in his career, you know?
That was a bad look, him not finishing him. I'll say that.
Him getting stuck on bottom for 6 minutes was a bad look.
Yeah.
And what I don't like about Shara, he's obviously a tremendous calf kicker. He's a really good body kicker, which is a concern in the context of this fight with Michal, who is soft as baby shit to the body. He just is.
Bag of milk.
But if you get inside on this guy on Shara, man, the guy doesn't have very good defense inside. He's got no hands at all. Like he's really not a good boxer at all. And Michal, if Michal was one of these guys who was going to do a Bruno Silva and kind of just be on the outside and kind of tentative about engaging, I'd be much more tentative about taking the line. But Michal's going to crush distance and pressure from the first minute. He does it against everybody, even against guys he shouldn't do it to. Like, I think he's going to find spots to land on Shara here. And like that in and of itself, it's like maybe Shara ends up being the most durable fighter ever, but I doubt it. I think Michal can get inside. And I also think, I don't love Michal's cardio, but I don't think Shara's got great cardio either, personally. So I kind of think it should play out close as long as he doesn't die from the first body kick that gets thrown at him. Like there's all kinds of red flags around Michal, but this is a guy who the market and all of MMA Twitter overrated for years. And now he's plus 200 against the guy who got held down for 7 minutes by Bruno Silva and lost the round to Antonio Truccoli on 4 days' notice. I feel like I have to do it. I also am looking at potentially just taking round 1 KO for Michal as well, just because it seems like a big number. And I feel like he's going to come out and throw the absolute kitchen sink at him in the first round. Plus 900 for round 1 seems absurd. We'll see what it opens up at FanDuel and elsewhere. But yeah, I don't feel great about it. I've never been Team Michal. I don't love Michal at all.
Yeah.
I've been very anti Michal Oleksiejczuk.
I know you have been, and that's why it was surprising for me to hear you say that. But
but I think I'm going to try to. But I think I'm going to try to catch the falling knife here. I think I'm going to try to catch the falling knife of Michal. What do you think?
I have similar thoughts to you as well. I do think he obviously can get kicked to shit early in the fight. Honestly, I was just looking at it. I think I'd much rather prefer the under. I know it's a bit juicy, the under 2.5. It's like minus 170, but
that's not horrible, actually.
Michal always comes forward, is looking to land those heavy shots, and is open to be hit, open to be kicked. I feel like violence is the answer here. To me, I don't get why overs are getting steamed. If it's staying on the feet 15 minutes, there's going to be a lot of damage. There's going to be a lot of damage getting thrown out.
Wait, the under is the under 2.5 or 1.5?
So I think it's largely a 1.5 on most books at minus 150 to the over, and then the alternate under 2.5 is minus 170. That
interests me.
Yeah. I'll probably be on that under 2.5. Pretty decent.
But I hear people talking about like Pereira, like, oh man, he got melted to the body by Pereira. It's like, I bet Pereira, like, first of all, Pereira was minus 150. Number 2, Pereira would fuck Shara up, man. Like, they are not like even like, he's a much better fighter than Shara is, and he probably kicks harder, to be honest. But I just feel like that is, you want to be fading this kind of a fight, that you want to be fading like the most recent outcome and trying to bet on it not happening as much as the optics make it look like it'll happen. So we'll see. I'm not max betting Michal. I'm not like, this is like a spot of the year. Dude, for a guy who's going to pressure, crush space, and throw down in the pocket, I feel that's like exactly the kind of guy you want to Shara. If he's not a wrestler, if you have a striker fighting Shara, you basically want Michal Oleksiejczuk. Like, that's the exact style.
Yeah, because this guy's only a kicker. You're looking to close that space. You're looking to make him uncomfortable. Put him on the back.
Yeah, and that's what Michal does to everybody. Literally everybody. Yeah. So, we'll see.
We will.
Moving on. We got the main event, though. Corey Sandhagen.
Hold on. So I know there's a lot of other takedown props and whatnot we could talk about if you want to. But just speaking on the last fight in particular, because I noticed this morning, what do you think the takedown line is set at for Michal? The over/under pricing. It's
I would guess. I would guess minus 200, under 0.5, minus 200.
Under 0.5 is plus 120.
I mean, he might try to attempt takedowns.
The over is minus 170. It's an interesting one.
It is. I mean, I think he has attempted takedowns in the past, though, in the UFC.
Yeah,
like, I can see him.
After he was getting his shit kicked to the stomach.
I mean, I think he took down Jacoby too, if I'm not mistaken. I know he took down Roundtree a couple times, but yeah, bet slam with Sam says Corey Sandhagen wins. I went into tape in this fight really wanting to bet Corey Sandhagen, and I came out feeling I just can't pull the trigger on it. I don't know whether or not Umar is the best fighter in the division or future champ, but he's a very, very, very good wrestler who is very, very, very good at controlling people. And when I look at this fight, look, Corey's obviously been working on his wrestling, right? You can see it in his last couple fights. He's been wrestling a ton. It's obviously been something he's prioritized in training. But we haven't really seen his defensive wrestling much in those fights. It didn't look great against either Jan or Song, who both got him down pretty easily when they tried for it. And his tape prior to that is really bad. I mean, I bet Aljamain Sterling big against him because I felt like the takedowns were going to be pretty much free and the back takes would be very available. And maybe he's changed his approach to get up, but all the tape I can find of Sandhagen, it's the same thing. He's not that hard to take down. And he defaults to giving up his back to get up. Even against TJ, you saw the same thing. TJ backclinching him all fight. Obviously, Aljo taking his back. Him giving up his back to get up against Rafael Assunção. And, Umar he's probably, of the Dagestani wrestlers, he is probably the closest to Khabib of the group, just in terms of how he fights. Like Khabib had the slickness and back takes of like a jiu-jitsu specialist, and Umar kind of has that too. And so, look, every signal is saying bet Sandhagen. He's fucking much more proven. He's fought much better competition. He's a much more experienced mixed martial artist, and he's fought at a much higher level. And he's got pretty good jiu-jitsu, honestly. Plus, he's an output king with great cardio. Obviously, things you want to bet. But looking at the grappling in this fight, I just maybe he's made big improvements. And if he has, you'll be able to tell pretty quick, and maybe I'll bet him live. I look at the wrestling dynamic, and I think Umar gets takedowns. I think Umar likely gets to dominant positions here that Sandhagen can't work out of. And honestly, I kind of think Umar's going to submit him, to be honest. I've seen takes to the over here, but and maybe it gets there. I don't know if I'll bet it.
I'm with you. I'd rather bet an under.
Yeah, Umar's submission plus 300 kind of tempts me, to be honest. I think he is going to get to some deep sub attempts. And other than Aljo is the only really elite submission grappler Sandhagen's fought, and obviously he cooked him very, very quickly. I think Umar, he's not at Aljo's level as a submission threat, but he's up there, man. And yeah, I don't know. Look, maybe we learned some data on Umar. It turns out he can't go 5, which is why I'm not laying minus 300 on him. Maybe Corey's made those big wrestling improvements in his defensive game. But, the thing is, you can be working on wrestling all day. Where he had to go from as a defensive wrestler to where he needs to be to win this fight is going from a D to a solid B plus, A minus. And I have a hard time believing he got there. A really hard time believing it. So, look, I love Corey. Yeah. I'm happy to bet him live if it turns out he's outperforming, my expectations of his wrestling. But I do think the wrestling is just going to be very one-sided here. What do you think?
Completely agree with you. And I guess really the only thing that I will add on to that is that Corey doesn't really have, in my opinion, the power to deter Umar from getting his wrestling going on the feet. He is, not to call him a volume merchant, but he more or less is. Guy will throw a ton of volume on the feet. Guy's got good cardio, but can't really bust a grape, really. He
does do some critical stuff. He can throw a flying knee or a front kick.
Yeah.
But he's not going to be sitting you down with a jab, or stopping you in your tracks with a jab or a counter two.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't like this card for betting at all. Honestly, guys, I'm gonna do a show either tomorrow morning or Friday morning on PFL because I actually have a couple bets on it, and it's a pretty good PFL card. So I'll break that whole thing down. I actually like both that and LFA more than the UFC this week. So but yeah, I'll be watching it. It's noon Eastern on Saturday. Hopefully we can bounce back from last week. It was an absolute shitfuck of a card. So we got this week. We got a couple good spots coming up in the next few. Guys, again, we're sponsored by FightNumbers.com for 30% off your first month's subscription there. Use the promo code CLUB, live odds screen, Pepe Evan and Ozzy's bets, John Kelly's DFS projections. It's great stuff. It's well worth the cost of admission. Check it out. If you like the show. And Chad the intern. He's there too. And if you like the show, drop a like, subscribe. We'd appreciate it. Good luck on your bets. God bless. We'll see you next week. Peace.